The 9th of August 1945. Japan. An atomic bomb flies from the American plane Enola Gay to Hiroshima. The world's first use of nuclear weapons will claim almost 500,000 lives. 3 days later, another Japanese city, Nagasaki, will suffer a similar terrible fate. In 3 years, the island country, almost completely bombed and mutilated by American aviation, will begin to rise to its feet quite rapidly. Capacity is increasing in the agricultural sector and in 3 years, in the steel industry. By the mid-50s, the Japanese will take up mechanical engineering. The purchase of motorcycles hit the wallet hard. In 1955, a Japanese college graduate's average salary was 10,000 yen, while a Yamaha YA1 cost 138,000 yen. Despite this, there has always been a demand for motorcycles. Primarily among teenagers who often took on illegal, and sometimes even criminal, side jobs in order to save up for a two-wheeled vehicle. From the 60s to the 90s, little has changed.
Japanese teenagers are very cruel. They commit terrible crimes, kill classmates, children on the streets. They destroy everything they don't like. It is incomprehensible.
16 and 17-year-olds gathered in groups and traveled on motorcycles, mopeds, and cars. Riots and violence became their way of life. Japanese researchers blame the education system. No country in the world has stricter rules than in schools in Japan. Just imagine, at 8 in the morning, your child goes to school, at 5 in the evening, they head to extra classes, and by 9 in the evening, they sit down to do their homework. Sleep is minimal. For failure to complete the tasks, students are expelled from school. So you can forget about entering the university, which means for Japanese society to become a nobody.
This violence is not limited to the schoolyard. It grows into something much more. It confuses me. I don't know what will happen next. Housewives and workers are sometimes afraid to walk around some blocks. All because of teenagers who take out their aggression on them.
These teenagers gathered in groups of 10 to 15 people and carried out attacks. Not only innocent Japanese pedestrians were in the crosshairs, but also street gangs. Due to constant clashes and noisy rides, locals began calling them Kaminari-zoku, meaning Thunderclans.
Legend says Thunderclans came from their riding style. Motorcyclists loudly throttled bikes during races, disturbing and scaring people.
Motorcycle races grew into a kind of subculture and became an integral part of the life of Eastern Japan. People were accustomed to not going out on Saturday evenings. Embittered teenagers crushed everything in sight. How'd they escape? Punishments for minors in Japan at the time were quite simple. For the riot and hooliganism, just 1 year in a correctional facility. After serving, they would return to their usual way of life.
Most of them rode with metal baseball bats. They smashed shop windows and cars with them. They could easily break the head of someone they didn't like.
By 1972, there were about 300 such motorcycle gangs throughout Japan. They increasingly began to appear in the loud headlines of the newspapers. The attitude towards the Kaminari-zoku was varied. Someone considered them a symbol of freedom.
A legend suggests bikers originated from former Imperial Japanese Navy kamikaze pilots who couldn't complete their mission due to the war's end. For maximum adrenaline, they sped through Japanese streets.
Opponents, due to constant races and fights, hated them. Journalists wrote so often about embittered teenagers that they gave them a new name, which took root so much that it became an integral attribute of criminal Japan, Bosozoku.
The word Bosozoku accidentally appeared in 1972. In one of the newspapers, the editor combined two words, race, boso, and clan, zoku. From then on, Japanese began to call these bikers Bosozoku.
Once named and recognized in Japan's criminal underworld, Bosozoku quickly grew and shifted to cars. During their races, you can see a column of motorcyclists and cars on the side or behind. This system has never changed. The whole structure is clearly built. At the top is the president, followed by deputies, then captains who play the role of accountants, behind them lieutenants, recruiters, and then soldiers. Those cruel teenagers who do the dirty work. Car tuning is the most interesting aspect of the Bosozoku subculture. This is what makes them unique compared to other gangs. No one in the world puts 2-meter bumpers curved forward or 3-meter exhaust pipes on their car. This is the essence of Bosozoku, to be as different from each other as possible. Although not only cars are tuned but motorcycles too. In total, there are 5 styles of Bosozoku tuning: Shikotan, Yankee style, VIP style, Kyusha and Gratian. Only at first glance they are the same. For example, Shikotan is the first and classic style. It can be recognized by a racing car with a very low suspension. There are wide rims and a very elongated nose. Yankee style is one of the brightest. It includes Hawaiian shirts and white pants. The tuning is also bright. VIP style Bosozoku are focused on new cars. This is almost the same style as Shikotan but many times more expensive. Kyusha style is also similar to Shikotan but simpler and cheaper. But the Gratian looks like Transformers. Bosozoku turn a car into a tank on wheels with plastic. The heyday of Bosozoku came in the mid-70s. Gang members conquered territories by attacking other street gangs. They robbed people and shops and tuned their cars and motorcycles for the stolen money. Fights, tuning, and races, the Thunderclans have no more hobbies.
This gasoline bomb is one of the most beloved weapons of the Bosozoku. It is primitive, and they fill a bottle with gasoline, fill a piece of cloth into it and light it. When they break that bottle, the gasoline spills and explodes in flames.
The ideology of the Bosozoku is simple: they are leaders of the revolutionary youth movement. At least, that's their self-proclaimed position. This is reflected in their clothing, tokofuku, meaning special uniforms. Only gang members have the right to wear such an outfit. They wore trousers, long coats, and the boots are Japanese pilots from the 70s. Everything is decorated with slogans. Gang name, member call signs, and location are provided. The coat is covered with symbols that only the members of the group understand.
We believe in Yamato Damashi, Japanese tradition, and never retreat. Once in a fight, you cannot back out. You have to win. In World War II, the Yamato Damashi spirit was present during the attack on Pearl Harbor. It perfectly captures the kamikaze pilot's spirit of honoring and defending their nation. You have to be willing to die for it.
Bosozoku often arrange races and various competitions. Of course, they disregard all the rules. Sometimes, they deliberately overtake cars to block their way. And when drivers honk, the Bosozoku get off their vehicles and start causing havoc.
This is what you live. When you feel bad, you get on a bike, forgetting about everything. This only happens when you are on a motorcycle.
Criminal fun of Bosozoku is not limited to races and fights. They work closely with the Yakuza. They see it as climbing the criminal ladder. They will gain more influence and authority. And, of course, money. All Bosozoku members can be divided into 3 groups. The first group works for the Yakuza, doing their dirty work, selling drugs, or carrying out contract killings. The second is trying to join the Japanese mafia. They have to go through all the oaths and pay a big sum. This is how the Yakuza make money on Bosozoku. The third group opposes the mafia and try by all possible means to sever any ties with mafia families.
To confront the Yakuza, the Yokohama Alliance was created. 500 bikers united to prevent criminalization of the Bosozoku subculture.
Despite these 3 groups have different views, they have the same character: cruelty. When Japan's economy declines, children and graduates struggle to find jobs and their place in society. Therefore, they join gangs to drive away stress and depression. By the early 80s, law enforcement was fed up with Bosozoku's street antics and focused on eradicating the subculture. They tried to catch bikers on the streets by any means. Stopping a biker is not easy. The police came up with a special method: they would throw their batons into the wheels. Not that this method was very effective, but the Bosozoku understood it was time to lay low. Getting off the police hook was simply impossible.
The government began to put pressure on Bosozoku. Teen penal colonies and new road rules curtailed hooligan motorcyclists. And one of the key ones: Japanese minors have stopped being issued driver's licenses.
The government's efforts have yielded results. Young people leaving colonies attempted to integrate into peaceful life. Due to the license ban, former bikers switched to bicycles. By the way, they were also tuned. You could find such a contrast: car, bike, and bicycle. It sounds ridiculous, but in fact they have become even more aggressive.
We always carried knives with us for protection. In case of kidnapping or arrest, we could easily fight back, but walking around unarmed was dangerous. If you are kidnapped by other gangs, they will take away your vest. That's if you're lucky. My friend was unlucky. He was tied to a car and dragged for several hundred meters. He died.
Each Bosozoku clan is an independent gang, and they are at odds with each other. Not all, but there are regular fights for control over the blocks. Sometimes large-scale massacres require armed law enforcement to assist in dispersal.
Our enemies were the Black Emperor Bosozoku gang, and we often set up guerrilla ambushes for them. We hid with weapons near the road and pulled a rope across the highway. As they approached, we pulled it, knocking them off their motorcycles, and then attacked.
Thanks to journalists, Japan learned about the cruelty of Bosozoku. But no one has ever heard anything good about them. Their subculture became a threat that they tried to eliminate, and they did so effectively.
We did both good and bad things. Once we helped a woman. We freed her car, which was stuck in mud. We simply lifted the car and transported it to the road.
Over time, the number of Bosozoku decreased. Japanese law allowed officers to detain bikers on slight suspicion of gang involvement. It became more dangerous to drive openly. Youth split, some joined Yakuza, others lived as civilians. As for those who remained, these are veteran bikers. They are over 50, all income is legal, and they work in ordinary, not quite prestigious jobs in Japan. For example, Kazuhiro Kazuki. He replaced his former wild lifestyle and thefts with road construction. He has a dream to earn enough money to help all bikers who get out of prison and then restore the glory of Bosozoku, but no longer negative. Meanwhile, their numbers keep dwindling. Only cosplayers at festivals and car and motorcycle tuning now remind us of the Bosozoku.